in a world that just feels like, well, like a constant scramble sometimes. Stress keeps piling up, distractions are everywhere, and let's be honest, there's often that nagging feeling of self-inflicted suffering that just sticks around. It's easy to feel totally overwhelmed.
Totally. But what if all that inner noise, that relentless chatter in your head was actually optional?
Optional,
What if the
yeah.
real key to breaking free from that mental hamster wheel wasn't about changing everything out there, but about a pretty radical shift inside you, like flipping a switch that's just been waiting?
That's exactly the powerful idea we're diving into today. We're taking a really deep look at Eckhart Tolle's work, A New Earth. It came out back in 2005.
Hmm.
Our mission really is to pull out the absolute core insights from this guide. And it's not just about finding personal peace.
Oh, not at all. He argues it's about something much bigger, collective spiritual evolution.
Right.
Tolle isn't just offering another self-help book here. It's genuinely a revolutionary vision he presents. How to actually transcend the ego's grip, which can be pretty insidious, right? And live fully present. He builds on his earlier work, The Power of Now, but this is really a profound call for a shift towards higher consciousness, starting with each of us.
So what's the main problem Tolle really zeroes in on? The thing he says is like the root of so much of our pain and anguish.
Well, he basically reveals that our deep, often totally unconscious identification with the ego is what traps us. It traps us in this cycle of pain.
It's like our minds create this story, this persistent narrative.
Exactly. A self-perpetuating narrative that we just can't seem to step out of.
And the promise, the sort of light at the end of the tunnel he offers.
The promise is pretty radical, too, that liberation isn't some far-off spiritual goal. It's actually profoundly accessible. Through spiritual awakening, we can literally disengage from that mental loop.
Which leads to personal peace, obviously, but also...
Yes, and this is the bigger vision. If enough of us do this, it could actually lead to the creation of a much more harmonious world. It sounds big, but that's the implication.
Okay, so by the end of this deep dive, you, listening, should get a much clearer handle on a few key things. First, understanding the ego, not just what it is, but crucially, how to spot its mechanisms, sometimes really subtle ones, in your own daily life.
Right. And you'll also get practical insights into living more in the present moment, which, as Tolle shows, can dramatically cut down on that constant stress and anxiety we started with.
And it goes deeper than just stress, right?
Oh, absolutely. You'll get fresh perspectives on, say, relationships, how to cultivate healthier ones by spotting and letting go of those negative patterns that can hold us back. And importantly, we'll unpack Tolle's really powerful idea that your individual transformation isn't just about you feeling better. It's actually a vital contribution to global change.
Okay, so let's map this out. We need to explore the nature of the ego, what it is, what it isn't. Then really dive into the power of the present moment, which sounds simple, but maybe isn't.
It's deceptively simple, yeah.
Yeah.
Then we'll look at the journey of awakening consciousness itself, how personal and collective transformation connect, and finally, touch on the importance of acceptance and surrender, which can be tricky concepts.
Definitely. So the ego, what's fascinating is how Tolle defines it, isn't it? It's not just arrogance.
No, not at all. He reveals it as this almost constant, subtle need to define ourselves by external things. Our job, our opinions, past stuff, failures, successes.
Right, like labels we attach to ourselves.
Exactly. It's this mental construct that tricks us into believing our fleeting thoughts are our true identity. And that separates us from, well, our deeper essence.
And here's the interesting bit, or maybe the frustrating bit. The ego actually feeds itself, right? It loves complaints.
Oh, it thrives on them.
Yeah.
Complaints, judgments of others, that persistent need to be right or feel superior in some way. But the genuinely good news, the first step out, is simply becoming aware of it. Cultivating what he calls observer consciousness.
Like hitting pause.
Yeah, like hitting pause on the movie in your head. Instead of getting swept up in the drama, you just notice the thoughts.
Yeah.
Without judgment, without engaging.
So that moment of thinking, oh, there I go again, needing to be right, that is the awareness.
That is it. That's the beginning of disidentification.
Okay, so if the ego is the self-feeding loop, how do we actually, disengage, step off the hamster wheel?
And that's where Tolle's most powerful strategy comes in.
Yeah.
A complete shift, a reorientation to the present moment. He makes this really compelling case of what he calls psychological time,
I guess.
living constantly in the past, like reliving regrets or anxiously playing out future scenarios.
So what ifs and if onlys?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He argues that's largely an illusion. It's what constantly pulls you away from the reality of this moment right now.
Which means the only time life is actually happening, the only real moment, is now.
Only ever now. The past is just memory traces in the now. The future is just thoughts, projections, happening now. Presence becomes the only place where true life, true peace can actually be found.
Simple, but, yeah, profound when you really sit with it.
It really is.
Yeah.
And connecting this to the bigger picture, the awakening of consciousness then, is about recognizing those automatic patterns.
The ego's tricks, you called them.
Yeah, the ego's tricks, if you like. Seeing them for what they are, just mental habits, learned reactions. They aren't who you truly are deep down.
And the tools he gives us for this are surprisingly simple, actually. Meditation, silent observation.
Incredibly simple, yet powerful. They aren't just, spiritual things to do. They're practical ways to quiet down that demanding egoic mind and connect with the deeper awareness that's always there underneath the noise. It's about creating a bit of space inside.
Creating space. I like that.
Which leads us straight into transformation, personal and collective. Tolle's argument is that when individuals genuinely awaken, when they start to transcend the ego, it doesn't just stop there.
It ripples outwards.
Exactly. It creates a ripple effect. Individual awakening isn't isolated. It starts this kind of chain reaction, potentially spreading through society, leading to a genuinely different way for us to relate and be together.
So this idea of a new humanity isn't just wishful thinking, then. It's a possibility built on individual shifts.
That seems to be his core message. It's less about some grand external movement and more about enough individuals committing to this inner work, transcending the ego, living from higher consciousness.
It starts small, one person, then another. Like a quiet revolution, maybe.
A quiet revolution, precisely. And that brings us to maybe one of the most challenging themes in A New Earth, acceptance and surrender.
Right. These can sound passive.
They can. Tolle suggests that our resistance to the present moment, our constant mental no to what is actually the primary source of our pain. We fight reality all the time, don't we? Traffic jams, difficult people, even our own feelings sometimes.
Okay, but hang on. For someone, say, deep in the corporate world, always planning, driving change, executing, doesn't acceptance sound like giving up, like resignation? How does Tolle square that? Because resignation often isn't seen as a good thing.
That's a really important question and a common misunderstanding. Tolle is absolutely not advocating for inaction or just passive resignation. He's making a crucial distinction. He says it's the inner resistance to what is that mental fight against the present moment that causes the suffering.
Ah, the internal battle.
Exactly. Acceptance, in his view, isn't giving up on action. It's actually the foundation for effective conscious action. By accepting the reality of the present moment, you stop wasting energy fighting it internally.
So you free up energy.
Precisely. You free up energy to act wisely from the present rather than reacting blindly against it. So you can still plan your meeting, prepare for it, but you accept the current reality of the situation. Maybe you're behind schedule, maybe something unexpected came up, without adding layers of anxiety and resistance on top.
Okay, that distinction is key, isn't it? Accepting what is, but actively, consciously, lets you work with life, not constantly push against it.
You got it. It's letting go of that deep-seated need for things to be different right now in this instant. Which, frankly, when you can actually do it, even for a moment, feels like a huge weight off your shoulders.
Okay, so let's start wrapping this up. As we finish this deep dive into Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth, let's circle back to the core takeaways. First, and this is maybe the most startling, suffering, Tolle basically says, is optional.
Largely optional, yeah. It really hinges on how much you identify with that egoic mind we talked about, the complaining, judging, worrying part.
Second big point, inner peace. It's not hiding in the past, going over regrets, or endlessly strategizing for the future.
Nope, it's right here, in the now. That's the only place it actually exists, the only place you can ever experience it. Simple as that, yet so easy to forget.
And maybe the most empowering idea for everyone listening, global change starts small. It starts with individual transformation.
Absolutely. Every single person who awakens, who steps out of that egoic trance and into presence, genuinely contributes to a more conscious, more harmonious world. That really changes the scale of things, doesn't it? It puts some power back in your hands.
It really does.
And Tolle doesn't just leave us with ideas. He gives concrete challenges, things you can actually do.
Yeah.
So for you listening, maybe start by just observing your own ego.
How? Like, when does it flare up?
Yeah, when do you find yourself complaining? internally or externally, judging others, feeling that really strong need to be right about something, just notice it, no need to fight it, just see it. That act of seeing is the start of freedom.
Okay, noticing the ego. What else?
Practice presence. Maybe dedicate just 5 minutes a day to silence. You just observe your breath, feel the air coming in, going out.
It's not about stopping thoughts, though, right? Because that seems impossible.
Definitely not about stopping them. It's about noticing them without getting swept away, connecting with the stillness that's actually underneath all the mental noise. It's a small step, but it can really shift your inner state over time. And then, maybe the toughest one, but also the most freeing. Practice accepting the inevitable. Stop resisting situations that right now you simply cannot change.
Again, this isn't being passive.
No, it's about releasing the extra layer of pain that comes from fighting reality internally. It frees up your energy for wise action where action is possible.
Okay, those are some solid practical things to try. And that final quote from Tully about the book really hits home, doesn't it?
It really does. Let me find it. Here. A New Earth is not just a book, but a manual for spiritual liberation. Its message is clear. Awakening is not a luxury, but an urgent necessity for the survival and evolution of humanity.
Wow. Not a luxury, but a necessity.
Yeah. Quite a thought to end on, isn't it?
Yeah.
It suggests the future isn't just something that happens to us. It's something we are actively shaping, moment by our choice to wake up or not.
Indeed. So we really invite you to reflect on this whole journey toward a more conscious life. How might you start applying some of these insights, even in small ways right now in your own experience? Because the journey, as they say, is really just beginning.